Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 99 of Simply Football Podcast. I'm your co host, Peter, joined by my co host, Patrick,
Hello.
and Bruno.
What's going on, everyone?
All right, so we got two Portugal games to get to. Also, a question that I throw out. It's also in the title of the video, so you've probably seen it. And Patrick's going to weigh in on the new appointment of the new sporting coach, which I don't even know how to say his name, to be honest with you. I haven't been paying total attention to his name and the pronunciation. So Patrick will have to help me with that. But
No problem.
anyway, let's let's get on with the show and get started on the game that happened on Friday, the first game of the of the group stage. Obviously, Portugal played Spain. I predicted Portugal to win. I think you two predicted a draw, right?
No, I predicted a loss.
You predicted, of course, negative
I
Nancy.
think I may have done the same.
Really? You both negative. Anyway, that was the one that was closest then. Just draw. Let's
Well,
let's leave it
he,
at
he, he said Portugal would win and we didn't win either, so.
that. I'm just playing. I'm just playing. I wish you would have won though. But anyway, the game started off pretty well. Scoring that goal early, but we'll get into it. All right. So let me just give you the lineup before we get into the game itself. So Patricio was in goal, Cedric, Pep, Fonte, and Guerreiro across the back. Bernardo, Moutinho, Carvalho, and Fernandes all in the midfield with Gonçalo Guedes and Ronaldo playing forward. I'll let Bruno go first on this because I know he's probably gonna harp on the team a lot more than I am. So I'll let him get his rant out of the way first.
I mean, the result is definitely better than the exhibition. Performance was, I thought, was very bad. I mean, if you really look at this game and analyze it, we didn't look good. Portugal, I think, Rui Patricio was solid in goal. Back line, I thought Cedric had some problems. Guerreiro did his job. Pep was Pep. Font had some struggles, in particular the first goal with Cedric. I thought William Carvalho was -1. The guy Bruno Fernandes, I thought was -2. I don't think he played well at all. I thought the role that he had to play, which was left mid, versus playing maybe center forward behind Ronaldo, probably would have been better. Gonçalo Guedes was 0, -3. So playing 8 guys against 11 and you tie 3-3 on a historical day for Ronaldo, I would say that was probably a good game in terms of result. But the performance was atrocious. João Mario came in. Yes, the game was a little different, but at the same time, I don't think he added anything to the team. Quaresma came in. I thought he added a little more possession. He won a couple of more fouls, slowed the game down a little more. Probably we could have used him today for the same type of purpose. Well, we decided not to do that. We like to complicate things. And then the last one, and I forget who the other sub was. Who was the other sub, Peter?
Andre Silva.
He came on?
Yeah, for the game.
And he was like, I mean, he didn't have a lot of time, but he was keeping the center backs busy. But Gonçalo Guedes was just absolutely terrible. Yes, I know. Benfica Nation is going to say, oh, but he had an assist. Okay, he had the assist. Take away the assist, he did nothing but ruin scoring opportunities. That's a fact. And that's really it. I mean, William Carvalho definitely shouldn't have started this game. He doesn't have the speed, doesn't have the mobility for a team like Spain. He doesn't have the speed or the mobility for a team like Morocco. That decision was completely terrible by Fernand Santos. Bruno Fernandes was very disappointing. I think this was a game in which he needed to make his mark. You got your opportunity to start on the World Cup stage. You need to make your mark on the starting 11. He didn't do it. He got benched, and today he got benched, and it was the right call on there. But once again, he came in and he didn't do well. But we'll talk about it later.
Mm-hmm. So I, I have sort of the same idea as you mostly. The only reason why I defend Gez a bit more than you is simply because we had two counters, which he did screw up in the end, but we wouldn't have had those counters if it wasn't for him. So I think he just needs to clean up his game a little bit. And I said that he would be, one of the hidden quote unquote stars or one of the most important players if he was able to capitalize on this opportunity. He's not doing that, and then that has to change because Andre Silva is going to start playing. And I don't honestly don't really like Andre Silva. Um, but other than that, I think you're pretty much spot on. The game was bad. I don't really understand why, because in the first couple of minutes, until we got the penalty, and a bit after that, I thought Portugal was trying to look dominant and actually try and create goals and opportunities. They were pressing Spain, and that just kind of changed after we scored and we let them attack. And eventually they turned it around. Um, yeah, obviously there's a bit of luck in their goal, but there's also luck in our goal. So it was a pretty even game. I think Spain dominated possession, though they didn't have a lot more chances than us, but they were definitely more threatening. But at the end, 3-3, you can't really say it was an unfair result. Patrick, what do you say about this game?
So I was a bit surprised, obviously, that Bruno Fernandes started the game, having only started the game against Algeria in the build-up to the World Cup. Fernando Santos had always preferred João Mario. I thought he would have gone for the same trusted system again and put João Mario in against Spain, and being the big game that it was. From that perspective, I was surprised that Portugal had come out quite positive, and especially in the opening 10-15 minutes, Portugal played quite well and didn't let Spain settle on their game. And Portugal found their way ahead, and things were looking good. Things were looking very different from what they usually do on a big stage with Fernand Sanch. But as the game went on, it sort of fell into place as how many probably would have expected the game to be. Spain are a top quality side. They knocked the ball about better than anyone else, and Portugal, on the other hand, are a team that more often than not prefers to play without the ball, and they try to maintain tight shape and close Spain out. What that did was obviously it resulted in large periods of the game where Spain were dominant and recycling possession. I would say the defence, which was a worry coming into the tournament, I do think the back line, was generally pretty good. I think the players around the back line perhaps could have offered a bit more protection. Gedge was obviously playing up front. I wonder if had he been wide and offered an outlet on the counter and then perhaps squeezed in Bruno Fernandes alongside Moutinho and William, perhaps we would have been able to cover the spaces a bit better and provided more of a threat to Spain as the game went on. But that didn't seem to happen. Also, Gedge, being in that forward role, was also able to obstruct Busquets, which is also important. So, Fernando Sanchez perhaps caught in between two minds there. But, all in all, I don't think you can really point too many fingers towards Portugal. It is Spain at the end of the day, a difficult nation to play against. We did rely on a bit of fortune at times to get the goals that we did, but that happens, and they get a draw, which I think is a good result. It was important to pass that test because, as we saw today, the game against Morocco never looked easy, and coming into that game, it was important that we had something behind us. But yeah, it was. I think it was decent. I was more I was happier with what I saw against Spain than what I saw today against Morocco.
Yeah. Um, you know, at the end of the day, though, you know, it's what you guys said. It's a good result in a terrible game, and the historical day for Ronaldo, like Bruno said. I believe he's the oldest player to score an hat trick in the World Cup. So we'll see how far he makes it in the goal scoring department. I'm not sure I think the record's like 13 goals by Klose. I don't know how many he has, but you know, maybe he could get close to that record this year. Who knows? Um, but with that said, also we had another game which was Iran. They ended up beating Morocco 1-0 due to an own goal. That was really surprising. And with Portugal winning today against Morocco, they are knocked out. So Spain will quote unquote have an easier game than Portugal, but still, it all depends what Morocco is going to do in the third game because obviously they don't want to come out empty-handed. So we'll see what happens in that game. But getting to Portugal's second game, though, which was today.
Can we talk about that Morocco game though, real quick about with Iran?
Oh yeah, for sure. Go ahead.
I mean, listen. If anyone watched that game, you would realize that was the most unjust result out of all in the entire World Cup, because Morocco completely outplayed Iran. Iran just got a very lucky own goal late. I mean, the only thing that's separating Morocco to be one of a premier team is a striker. If they actually had a true goal scorer, this team would be very, very good. And they proved it again today, how good they really were. They were, and I'll say this nice and slowly for everyone to hear me, much better than Portugal today. Much better. Okay.
I agree. I can agree. But you know, I also think that Portugal.
Well, you could probably bring up the lineup, and we can handle it.
I'll get to it. Yeah, the lineup, there was only one change. One change that didn't actually end up changing anything, to be honest with you guys, and I don't think Joe Mari played all that well. But anyway, Rui Patricio was in goal, Cedric, Pep, Fonte, and Guerreiro across the back, Bernardo, Moutinho, Carvalho, and João Mário in the midfield with Gonçalo Guedes and Ronaldo up top. I don't know if I want to. Let me take this first. So, I thought that the goal is actually pretty good. I think that was probably something that they studied, and the way that Ronaldo got open was actually pretty smart. So that's something to look forward in that pieces. I think if we work on those, we'll be really strong. But then after the goal, we decided to give away possession to Morocco, which didn't even make much sense because we have good players that know how to pass the ball around. And it just felt like we were content on defending the result. And yeah, of course you want to win, but at the same time, I feel like this team could play eye to eye to Morocco. I mean, let's face it, they're a bit below us, even though they play really good football. And I think this team should have done much better and should have won this game. I wouldn't say it would have been easy, but they could easily make it, 3-1, 3-2, 4-2, a lot more entertaining game. Would they've gone forward? And it's just something that I don't really understand, especially how shaky we were on defense. I mean, honestly, I like Guerreiro, and I know the level of play that he brings into the team is really good, but I don't think he played a lot during the last 6 months for Dortmund, so I don't really understand why he's starting, to be honest with you guys, because it shows his lack of fitness a lot during the game.
That's not correct. He did play probably the last 2 months of the season, or we'll call it the last month and a half of the season. He played regularly, but the difference was that he played as a center mid, not as a left back or a left mid. He was more used as a left center midfielder versus a player on the outside. So maybe that has to do with it. Today, I just don't think that he doesn't have confidence. That's the problem. And Fernando Santos talked about it at the press conference that there were players he felt that lost some confidence after this game, even though they won.
I mean, they definitely, and I like the message that Fernando Santos at least gave to us at the end of the game, where he was saying, "I was telling them to hold the ball at halftime. Like I was telling them to be confident, to get the ball and to play our football, and they just didn't do that. They looked scared. So obviously, at least Fernando Santos understands what happened, and he knows that they have to rectify it, which is a lot better than ignoring the problem altogether." But to be honest with you guys, in this game, the only highlights I would really have would be hell. It would probably be William Carvalho. That's about it. I thought he had a really quiet, good game. Um, Other than that, I mean, Bernardo was pretty much useless. Even though we all know he's very good. João Mario playing that role now that when he played it with JJ, it was different. He was used to it. I think he's no longer really that right mid or left mid that Portugal needs. Uh, I don't know. This game should have been a lot better. I know that Morocco is a good side, and if it was like a 2-1, 3-1, even 3-2, I'd understand. But I thought this game was really, really poor by Portugal. I don't know what you guys have to add to that.
Well, to me, I think the key problem with Portugal is that I don't think they really have an identity in terms of going forwards and how they operate things. We don't go. It doesn't seem like it's a side that goes into that much detail into how they attack. They just do it, and it comes off the cuff. And I think sometimes once that doesn't happen to work, which it didn't against Morocco, despite going a goal ahead. In the moment after that, it's very easy to lose control and to lose your way and to lose a sense of guidance. And that plays into the hands of a side like Morocco, who does have very good ball players who rotate their midfield quite heavily and attack with their fullbacks, and they were able to cause Portugal lots of problems, both centrally and out wide. And then again, in the side like Fernando Sanchez's side, who tends to be quite conservative, and it's very easy for Portugal to then retreat and then just try to soak up all the pressure. I don't know. It's obviously something that he does because we know the defense isn't ideal. We've spoken about Guerreiro, who is not in his finest. He's not having his finest hour. Font isn't the same Font that we had in Euro 2016 and prior to that during his Southampton days. So it is a fragile back line. So we are protecting that a bit as well and making the choice, you know what, have the ball. We'd rather be solid and protect our lead. I don't know whether Portugal, should they have those difficulties attacking and then deciding to defend, I don't know how far they can stretch that throughout the tournament. To me, that's the big worry going forwards.
I just before I let Bruno weigh in, I just want to say that I don't know why those worries going forward are happening because Portugal's side going forward should be one of the most threatening sides in the World Cup.
It should, of course, yeah. But listen, it's even there's better teams than Portugal. We only got to look at Argentina and the plethora of attacking talent that they have. Just because you have lots of great individuals attacking wise doesn't mean that in an international perspective it's all going to come together. You know, a lot of work has to be put in, and it's even harder in international football than it is in club football. And I just don't, to me, in my eyes, it's difficult for me to say, obviously, because I'm not there at Portugal's training ground observing what Fernando Santos does. But to me, it just seems like a team that prioritises its shape rather than all phases of the game. And it shows. I mean, players like Bernardo Silva, when they're on the board, they don't have the same spark as they do at club level. And the same goes for Gonçalo Guedes and for Bruno Fernandes and so on.
Bruno.
I mean, I don't like the lineup that he used today, and I think Fernando Santos failed to analyze the game against Spain and to make a lot of changes for this game. I mean, you look at Morocco; they're very solid defensively. They have a lot of very quick, fast midfielders, and they counter with numbers. So you start defensively, I think a guy that you needed to have in the back was Ricard Pereira, and I said probably for Cedric. Um, Ironically, Morocco attacked Guerreiro all game long, and he had nothing but trouble. Font, I thought, held his own. I don't think Bruno Alves was a good answer for this game because this team is too fast for him. And Diaz against a team like this would have probably not finished the game because he's not fast enough for these type of guys in terms of reaction. So Font was probably the most experienced, and it was probably the best option as a center back. William Carvalho, I have no idea why he was on the field today. After the lesson that he got against Spain, this is definitely not a game for him. And, you know, I was arguing all morning on Facebook about the lineup. The number one guy, that to me was the man of the match, was João Moutinho. Why? He was filling in three different spots. He was playing his position, William Carvalho's position, and João Mario's position because William Carvalho it just cannot compete against players that are just that much faster than him. He just doesn't have the speed. And João Mario is a shadow of what he used to be at Sporting. He might not be a guy that should have been called up to the national team. That's 2 games already in which he has shown little to nothing. And then obviously Gonçalo Guedes, I mean, another horrific performance. I mean, he should have been changed for André Silva. You needed more of a box presence or someone a little bit more physical to hold the ball. André Silva's the guy. No, he decided to go with Gonçalo Guedes, and I don't think he did anything positive today at all. The substitutions I thought were horrible. Gelson came in. He spent more time on the ground than he did on his feet. He looked like Neymar, to be honest with you.
Not a bad player to look like.
I'm sorry?
Not a bad player to look like.
Well, not when I say he looks like Neymar, meaning the amount of times that Neymar spent on the ground against Switzerland.
Yeah, a lot of the times it was legitimate, though. I did think he did get fouled quite a bit.
That wasn't the guy to bring in, Patrick, in my opinion. I think the guy that should have been brought in was Ricardo Quaresma, guy more of a possession, guy that wins a lot of balls, guys that slows the tempo down. The one thing that Portugal needed was to slow the tempo down. At halftime, I was really expecting Adrian Silva to come in to compensate and help out. Either you take William Carvalho out or you bring him in to help him out. None of that happened. All he did was invert
that fought Manuel Fernandes.
Listen, Manuel Fernandes is a physical midfielder, but I don't think that in this game he had the speed for this, or let me say more of the stamina, because you needed a guy like Adrian Silva that has the stamina to get up and down the field fast. And Adrian Silva is the only guy with that characteristic on the team. João Moutinho doesn't have the speed that he used to have, but he was a guy that was doing well in possessing the ball. The problem is that every time he got the ball, he was getting crashed by 1-2 guys from Morocco. And, and then he always had to compensate with the defensively. So the problem today was, if you look at Portugal in a whole, you have to definitely analyze that they just don't get enough players forward. Patrick was kind of alluding to something like that, like, what's the issue with the attacking? The attacking is that we're just not getting enough players forward. And let's also be honest, Bernard Silva, I know you might be all big fans of his, and, he looks great at Manchester City, and blah, blah, blah. Listen, that's 2 games in which he got completely shut down. And I'm not saying that maybe you should go and bench the guy, but if he does get benched, it wouldn't be a bad thing. It would probably send them a message like, you got to also step up your game, because there were some plays today. I mean, he did not look good passing the ball. And then, of course, there's a lot of people that talk about, Ronaldo. Ronaldo, to me, was just completely not supported today at all. Gonçalo Guedes, I don't understand why he's on the field after the first game. Today was another reason why he shouldn't have been on the field. You have the highest scoring tandem in qualifying, which was Ronaldo and Andres Silva, and they don't even get to play together in the World Cup. So you got a tandem that got you there, and now you don't play them. Why? Why is it? Is it because of George Mins?
We'll
Is it because
see. We'll see when Andre Silva starts on Monday how much he'll do.
well, you don't know if he's going to start?
We'll see. I mean, I think it's highly likely that he will.
See,
Do you agree that he shouldn't start?
Yeah, because I think maybe if you change the formation around a little and you send Guedes to the left side, play Bruno Fernandes behind Ronaldo and allow both Guedes and Bruno Fernandes to rotate between them, you'll be able to see Guedes play as a center forward a lot more often without being marked. And
let me ask you this.
Defenses too.
Let me ask you this. So the two performances by Bruno Fernandes was not enough to convince you that he needs to completely sit down.
No,
How many more opportunities are you going to give this guy in a short tournament for you to be convinced that maybe he's just not ready yet?
See, the thing is with that is that even if we're looking at today's game, even Ronaldo didn't play well, and is what we've got in from the midfield up is a lot of players who aren't playing well, and I think that can't be attributed just to the players not stepping up or anything like that. I think we have to look at, what work is being put in for those players to excel when they've got to do what they've got to do, essentially, and that's what I think is lacking at Portugal.
How about this, Patrick? I think you touched on something, but I don't know. I don't know if you're indirectly saying it, or maybe you just didn't pick up on seeing what you just said. You just said that there's a lot of players that are not playing well. Well, if they're not playing well, then they shouldn't be there. They should have not been selected. They should not have been called to the national team.
The tactics that Fernandes are using aren't the ones that let the players shine or flourish into what they're able to do. I think he put the blame more on Fernandes. I don't know if that was where he was going, but I doubt he was saying that these players shouldn't have been selected.
Well,
no, I'm not saying at all, because if we go by that route, then in my eyes, they're really weaker. The only player which I mentioned last week that I felt should be in the squad is Ruben Neves, because he offers an alternative to William. As you were saying, William didn't play well today, didn't play that well against Spain. But the thing is, he's essentially the only defensive midfielder in the squad. You can do is put Adrian as a makeshift defensive midfielder, or play Adrian alongside William to try and rekindle that sporting partnership that they had. He's the only player I think really understands William's weaknesses and needs, and he's the only one that can cater for him physically in the middle of the park. But even then, I think everything just felt disorganised. If we look at the game, there was moments where Portugal had the opportunity to calm the game down a bit, ball at the centre back's feet, and we're looking for a long ball into the flanks and stuff like that, and it just really played into Morocco's hands. It wasn't just William who couldn't get control of the game, or Bernardo Silva who couldn't make anything happen, or Gelson who made the game a bit more frenetic coming off the bench when we needed to calm it down. It really stemmed from the back line. I think if we're looking at the team overall, the only player that truly played well was Rui Patricio. And Martinho had a good game as well, but I think Rui Patricio was by far the best. He made 2 important saves in that game, which otherwise the game could have been a lot more complicated without him.
Well, I mean, there's also another issue. You're playing with the only striker that you have on the roster is not even playing, which is Andres Silva.
Yeah,
okay, but if you're playing with a 2-forward formation, hold on, Peter. If you're playing with a 2-forward formation and you have the only striker your only true striker on the roster on the bench, what good is that going to do for you? This is why I said that maybe they should have called Eder. If you needed a strong guy, today was a guy that you needed a very strong guy to hold the ball and kind of help the team push up forward. They didn't have that today. They were sending these long balls, and it was just obviously they were getting overpowered. Gonçalo Guedes is not a guy that he's a guy that needs to be dribbling at defenders, not trying to hold the ball and wait for players to come and support him. That's just not going to work. And this is the guy that you put on the field. If you're going to try to play that type of style of game, then you got to put your strongest forward that you have on the roster, which is the only striker that you have, is Andre Silva. I mean, this is why I'm saying, like, if there's one guy that you got to blame, it's Fernand Sanz because of who he called to the team. It's just it was a very bad selection on multiple levels. And look at the guys that are struggling. They're all players that I said 2 weeks ago that the contract situation with their clubs is up in the air. All those players are struggling right now. Do you not think that's not weighing something on them? I think it is, because now you have one, they have to perform because they're a free agent. Someone's going to have to sign them. This is basically a showcase for them, and they're not proving it. So that's added pressure. And now they're really scrambling around like, damn, man, I had 2 bad games, and I need to play really well next game. That's added pressure again. And then if they don't play, that's going to be like, damn, I just fucked up 2 weeks or 2 opportunities, and now I can't get on the field. And like this is just eventually going to implode. This is what I've been saying from 2 weeks ago. I foreseen all this. Yes, did I pick Portugal not to get out of the group? I picked it because I knew exactly what the lineup was going to be. He was going to try to play William Carvalho against 2 very quick teams in the beginning of the group stage, and he got blown away both times. And now he's lucky that he's got 4 points, because in reality it should have been 1 point. Morocco definitely deserved a goal today, at least.
So there's just one thing that I disagree, or 2 things that I disagree with Guedes. I think he's not performing well, not because of his contract situation, because I think that his mind is probably set at Valencia. Let's face it, I don't think he's going to go anywhere else. And
yeah, but they have
I think
to buy
the reason
him,
why
Peter.
he's not performing is
But Peter, they have to buy him.
I know.
They might not have the money to buy him. Remember, these loan situations are very tricky, because if a player is loaned, okay, to the bank, guy's loaned. But now, if the guy's going to be like, well, I had a really good season here at Valencia, PSG's going to be like, well, he had a really good season, so you're going to have to pay a little more, because there was no fixed clause on buying him out. So now they're going to charge a lot more than what Valencia probably would like to pay or can pay. And now he might not stay there. What happened with Layun? Layun had a fixed clause, and now, thankfully, Sevilla said no. He had a good performance against Germany. Hopefully, he has another good one now. Porto is in the driver's seat where they can charge more money for his transfer. So I would disagree with what you're saying about Guedes. Guedes does not control everything here. His contract situation is not resolved.
Fine. Well, I just disagree with that, and I also think that you might be talking in terms of pure strikers. I don't think André Silva is close to being a better striker than Guedes. Not finishing wise and not goals wise, he is not superior to Guedes like in any way, except in Portugal where he's scored more goals. Because in club level, he's not as good as Guedes. I mean, we can see it by the stat line. And Guedes doesn't even play striker. I think he's really good into getting us into that final decision. Let's call it a final decision where he shoots or passes. And I think he sometimes doesn't believe in himself and passes when he should take the shot. And sometimes he takes shots and they go wide. Like if he manages to finish better, I honestly think that Guedes would be the future of Portugal in sort of that position, that role. But I also don't see us playing with a striker anymore for the foreseeable future. I think Portugal, and that's what I was gonna touch upon, is that I think Portugal is going to go to what Rui Jorge is doing, play a 4-3-3. Yes, I know he plays Gonçalo Paciência, but let's face it. I mean, Gonçalo is not going to get into this team with little to no playing time. And I think we're probably going to see a lot more, mobility around the front three or front four or even front five, depending on how we scheme things up. I think that these guys, and I think Fernando Santos should say to some of these guys, like, do whatever you want when you have the ball, because we can't like how am I supposed to say this, but we can't imprison these players to specific roles and specific moves and specific tactics. Guys like Bernardo, Bruno Fernandes, or anyone else that plays the center attacking midfielder, João Mario, for example, or whatever you want to say, Bruno. Gelson, Quaresma, Ronaldo, all need to be given freedom to do whatever they want when they have the ball at their feet. I think that's where they're the most dangerous. That's why, you can put in Andre Silva, sure, but I don't think he's going to have the same effect that Gage has on the team, because I think Gage could easily move to the left side during the game. Like, you don't even have to sub. Like, you can change him to the right. You can change him to the left. You can put him behind Ronaldo. You can even put him in front of Ronaldo. Like, there's a lot of options to go with Gage. Obviously, yes, he's not performing well. He didn't perform well in both of these games, but still he showed something. A little bit. Not enough for... Maybe not enough for him to start a third game if I'm Fernando Santos, but I'd give him a benefit of the doubt just because I wouldn't have called Andre Silva up. That's I wouldn't have called him. So that's why I'm defending Gage so much.
I think it's to me, picking up on what you said, Peter. I think it's actually the opposite. I do think that looking at Portugal's squad, I think the message seems to be, do what you want once the chance comes for you to create an attack. Portugal will remain solid and fixed at the back, and then when the opportunity comes, the freedom of creativity is all the players, and that's what I think is wrong. I don't think that's enough. I don't think just because you've got a really good player in Gage, in Bernardo Silva, in Bruno Fernandes, and obviously Cristiano Ronaldo, André Silva, these are all quality players. Just because you have those kind of players, that they don't need guidance, because they do. We saw today, just a few hours ago, Spain versus Iran. Spain are a side that know exactly what to do when they're on the ball, and they found it very difficult to overcome a side like Iran. If Portugal go into a game like that and just hope that someone like Ronaldo or Bernardo Silva will be free and know what to do, and the game turns out to be far more close than what they expect it to be, that's when panic starts to set in and players start making rash decisions and frustration takes over. I think there needs to be an effort at least. I know it's a lot tougher in international football than it is in club football, because you only get this group of players to work with for 3 weeks or 2 weeks at a time during the breaks. It's difficult to implement, but I just don't think that it is. I don't think there's a model or a methods of attacking being implemented in Portugal's way of doing things, and I think that's really affecting a lot of the players that aren't called Cristiano Ronaldo and can steal the headlines in a moment. To me, that's the problem for Portugal going forwards, and it's a shame, obviously, because as you say, all these players are very good players, and it shows that Portugal does actually have the resources to do a lot more than they do, but we're not.
So before I get into the question of if we can win the group or not, I will put you guys on the spot and ask you guys what starting 11 you think we should use for this game against Iran, and every other game that we might have in the future. If you guys want, I could go first, and then you guys could have so you guys could think about your lineup, because I already have an idea on mine.
So what you want is our lineup for Iran, right?
Yeah, for the Iran game, and what you think Portugal should go with, more commonly.
Okay, because when you were because when you were talking, it was breaking out. I didn't hear out. I didn't make out what you were saying.
Yeah, so I want your lineups against Iran or future games too. Do you guys want me to go first? Do you guys think, or are you guys set to give me your lineups?
No, you can go ahead.
All right, so I would start Patricio, Ricardo Pereira, Pep. The other center back is a toss up. I'm not going to be a homer and say Ruben Dias. Even though I want to say Ruben Dias, I'll say Fonte. Probably keep Guerreiro. I like to see Bernardo, Moutinho, and Carvalho. That works well, but I would like to see Guedes play on either or the right or the left side. I'd like to see also Bruno Fernandes play behind Ronaldo, or maybe even Quaresma. That's about it. What about you guys?
Go, Patrick.
Well, listen, this isn't the set 11 that I would go for, because obviously every game is different. Every game has different needs and requirements. But in my view, I think if Portugal ever established a way of playing and sat upon something comfortably, like, this isn't specific to Iran, but I would like Portugal to go with something like Patricio in net. I think right back's very difficult. Obviously, it depends. Ricardo Pereira is far better attacking, but I think Cedric takes him defensively. I'm not really sure who I'd pick out of the two, but backline would be Pep, Font. I'd still stick with Guerreiro because I still think he's the best left back that we've got. Central midfield, I would go William, and I would take the gamble and couple him with Adrian. I'd stick Bruno Fernandes slightly ahead of the two. Gedge on the left, Bernardo Silva on the right, and Ronaldo up front.
So quite similar to mine. What about you, Bruno?
Mine is going to be a bit different. Patricio in goal. I would go with Ricardo at right back. Center backs would be Pep and Bruno Alves, because Iran is not as quick. So I would say Bruno Alves probably, and you can get him. You can use him more as a set piece guy. Left back, Guerreiro. Center defensive mid would be Adrian. João Moutinho as a 10. On the right, Bernardo. On the left, Quaresma. Up top, Ronaldo and André Silva.
All right, so y'all have a little bit of different lineups, which is good and it's interesting. It also shows that I think that our national team in the end is a little bit flexible, and there's some things we can work around, which could prove to be in our favor in the future. But we'll see if they get out of the group stage first, because Iran, previewing this Iran game actually before we discuss we can win the group or not. This Iran team, when I was watching the game against Spain, it felt like very much like Benfica, Aroca, Porto, Tondela, Sporting Boa Vista, those type of games. It felt very much like one team surrendering the possession to the better side and locking everything up in the back, and sometimes being very threatening on the counter. So I don't even know if from experience that our players have playing this type of football in our league, if that might help us a little. But I think this game against Iran is going to be really difficult. But what do you guys think?
Yeah, I definitely think it will be difficult. As we said, I'm not that confident in the way Portugal attack. I think we're waiting on moments of brilliance from the players that where we've listed. And when you come up against a team like Iran, who showed against Spain that they can be very tight, and I think there was loads of moments in that game against Spain where every single outfield player was inside their own area or nearabouts. So Iran have obviously against Portugal they'll have a different job because they'll have their eye on qualification. They may have to come out of their shell a bit, but even when they did that against Spain today, they were able to cause Spain a few problems. It should be a difficult game, but then again, Portugal have a far better squad, and that, in my eyes, given how lackluster today was, I think Portugal, not just for the purpose of qualifying for the group, but also mentally, they have the obligation of putting on a better display and coming out on top against Iran.
All right, Bruno, what do you think?
Same thing. I mean, I think this is a game that is very, very tricky. I think a lot of people don't realize Iran actually surprised me today against Spain. I got a whole new respect for them today. I thought today was going to be Spain, washing the floor with them, mopping them, and that just didn't happen. And I think, I think Portugal's going to struggle, and if they don't get guys, creative players, guys that can send service into the box, Portugal's going to have a lot of struggles against this team because we saw Spain today. They could not break down that defensive front that Iran had. And Portugal's used to playing teams like that. The Luxembourgs and the Estonias and all these other teams that they have to play, through the road of qualification is very similar. The only thing is that you have to be very patient and you have to make sure that you take your opportunities and you score. Spain today was just absolutely lucky. That goal, I think Spain only had one shot on goal in 90 minutes. If you look at stats, and I don't know if the goal is considered a shot on goal because that was just a complete deflection. So it's going to be very interesting. I think I've always said it. I said it from the beginning, and I'll say it again. I don't think Portugal was going to be able to get out of this group. And if Iran gets a goal somewhere in the middle of the half and the second half, and the game is 0-0, I don't see Portugal getting through.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. All right. So, question time. So obviously, I'll let Bruno go first since he's the more negative one, and he already sort of gave away his prediction. But do you think
I'm not a negative? I'm not the negative. I'm more of a realist. I analyze the game much differently than everybody else, and people criticize me about it that I'm so quote unquote negative. I'm not negative. I'm realist, and people don't like to hear facts. People don't like to listen that their team is not this as they think that they are or what they read, because if you go through social media today, many people were pissed off, and many people agreed that Morocco was much better than Portugal today. Much better. It's not even. It wasn't even close. The only difference was one goal. That was it.
And I agree with you, but I'm still gonna call you negative Nancy because I like it. So you live with it. Just play. Anyway, though, Bruno, do you think that Portugal can top this group?
Do I think so? They have to. If they can score early against Iran and force them to open, and with the lineup that I would have used with maybe Quaresma as a starter, to open things up even more, I think they have a shot to get 2 or 3 goals. The problem is the other game. Morocco definitely wants to play spoiler. On the other side, if they can get Spain, if they can take Spain 3 points from Spain, that's going to really make things interesting, and it perhaps might even knock out. Well, actually, they wouldn't be able to knock out Spain unless Iran drew, right? No, that wouldn't work.
Iran and Portugal tied. They both have no.
5.
How many points does? Yeah, 5,
No.
right?
No, Portugal would have 5. They would have 4.
I'm not sure if it's goal difference or head to head. I think it might be goal difference.
I think it's goal differential is the first tiebreaker. But either way, it wouldn't work for them. It wouldn't work for them.
Iran would be there's no way. I don't think there's any way they qualify with a draw.
Yeah, with the draw, there's no way.
It would depend. It would depend on how Morocco beat Spain, wouldn't it? If it's goal difference.
No, Morocco. No, there's no way. I mean, unless Morocco wins.
Why not?
Morocco has to win 3-0.
Yeah, which you never know.
Yeah, but I mean,
listen, they play very well. They just can't score. That's the problem with them.
Yeah, and by the way, all the chances were falling to Benatia. If you're gonna have Benatia take almost every single shot from your team, I'm a very happy man. Is it?
Well, let's be honest, Peter. You should be thanking your lucky stars because Benatia it was all set pieces, and the ball it was scrambling in the box. It was just kind of hanging around there. It could have been anybody, and it was for Benatia to this time around. Next time, it might be someone else with a little more skill, and they put it in the back of the net.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm just playing around, but I don't know
It
if
would have been
it's
it would have been
doable.
very interesting. It would have been very, very interesting to see if it was actually if this game actually became a tie between Iran and Spain. That would have made this group absolutely crazy in the last game of the last week of or last match day of the group stage.
True, it would have been definitely interesting. But question: Yes or group?
I'm sorry.
Yes or no? Do you think we can top the group? Not if you think it's
No,
likely.
I don't think it's I don't think that it's possible.
All right, Patrick.
I think it'll be is tight. I think I can see two things. I can obviously see Portugal having a decent result against Iran, but I can also see Iran make it difficult for Portugal to attain such a thing. And on the other hand, I do see a Morocco side that will undoubtedly be feeling they were unlucky against Iran and they were unlucky again today against Portugal, and they've got nothing to show for their World Cup experience so far. So they want to put on a good display against Spain and perhaps go out with, well, most definitely go out with a win. I don't know how much they're prepared to risk for that, but I do know that they were quite open in certain stages of today's game, and certainly against Iran, they left themselves exposed. I think a side like Spain might be able to have too much for them in attack, and they could punish Morocco and get a few goals there. So if it's to go to goal difference, I think Spain might be, in terms of favouritism, they might edge Portugal on finishing top.
Um, I think we can top the group, and I think it's um, I won't say the most likely scenario. I just think that if we if there's just one if we score early, and we're able to maintain our type of football, I think we go through because in first place, because I think Spain has the more difficult game. And yeah, what you're saying, Patrick, is true that they might give a little bit too much space, Morocco with the back, but at the same time they're also threatening going forward. So it's also them being able to be clinical. It's always going to be a tough game for Spain. I think if it comes down to goal difference, I think Portugal has everything to win it because if I don't see Spain putting three past Morocco and not conceding at least one goal. I just think that it's not going to be a super. I think it's going to be a super competitive game. I don't think it's going to be close to a blowout. And the one that's the closest to possibly being a blowout would be Portugal if they stand to the level that they know that they can produce. If they produce well, I think we for sure can top the group, and it would be likely given that right now you guys peg Portugal to have quote unquote the easier game, while Spain have the hardest one. So if everything goes you know as it should, Portugal has a better chance of topping the group, at least in my eye.
That's true, but it goes back to what I've been saying for most of this podcast, is that I don't think Portugal as an attacking unit are as finely tuned as a team like Spain. And I think Spain on their day, they can stick 2-3 past any side in the world, let alone a team like Morocco, who is, with all due respect, very good. But they have their weaknesses, particularly at the back. They're a team that likes to attack and commit men forward. I think Spain, with the quality they have, players like
You think
Isco and
Morocco's defense? I mean, yeah, is their weakness? I think
yeah,
their attack
certainly.
is their weakness.
Yeah.
No, I think their
Obviously,
attack is their weakness.
their attack is their weakness in terms of they don't have that goal scorer.
Striker. Yeah.
They don't have that striker that matches the level of the players like Hakim Ziyech and Amin Harit and Mbark Bassouf. And these are quality players that perhaps deserved a striker that could really put those chances away. But even then, I think I think Morocco get lost a bit sometimes, and even today against Portugal, a lot of their chances came from set pieces rather than intrinsic play, and I just think that they search for that goal so much, and that they look for the spaces on the wings with Ashraf Hakimi bombing out down the left and Nabil Dirad today bombing down the right. I think if you do that against Spain, Spain get the opportunity. A player like Busquets or Iniesta, David Silva, they can spot that pass, and we mustn't forget someone like Diego Costa, who's an absolute expert at making those darting runs into the opposition's half. I think Spain really can unlock Morocco like no other team in the tournament. So that's why I'm saying that if there's any team between Spain and Portugal to ball out and score 2 or 3, I think I'm actually going to go for Spain, even if Spain have the tougher opponent, because I think Iran will be a lot more. They'll retreat a lot more, not as much as they did today, but they will be quite deep, and I don't think Portugal quite have the answers like Spain do.
All right, even though Spain didn't have any answers, but fair enough.
They didn't today, but it was an off day for them. Even against Portugal, they didn't. But I still back them
to win the group. I got you.
Yeah.
Y'all too negative. We'll see what happens in the.
I'm not negative. I'm just trying to predict the future, and that's what I see.
Fortune teller, eh?
Yeah.
All right. Well, do you guys but predictions for the game against Iran? Do you guys think that we'll win?
I think they'll win 2-0.
All right.
Yeah, I can see him winning as well. But I'm not sure whether anything can happen really. I'm just not sure whether.
Well, the one thing that we all can agree on, probably, I don't know if you guys would agree, but is this World Cup this year? There's been a lot of surprises.
Yeah, it's very cagey at times, and that's why I think if that nature steps into the Portugal game, which I think it should, I'm not sure Portugal will hit more than 1 or 2 goals. But for sure Portugal can win.
All right, then I got us winning 3-0. Why not? By the way, before we get to just 2 more things that I want to talk about, it seems you did make up, a decent point, or was something that also Ronnie Lopes said on Twitter, and it's something that I just want you guys' opinion on. And I know it's not enough to, to just get the result, but isn't it at least a little bit better that right now, because my dad was complaining about Portugal and how we play terrible, and I agree we play terrible too. But we had quote unquote super teams with we had Rui Costa, we had Figo, we had Nuno Gomes, João Pinto, all those guys, Jorge Costa, Maniche, all those guys playing, and we couldn't win jack shit. We played good football, but we'd never win. Now we're not playing good football.
Well, you can thank Scolari for that.
Yeah, I mean that's a fair point, but we didn't win. But is it really a big deal if we play like crap but we get the results?
Yeah, but it's at the moment we're at the group stages and playing crap and not getting results. Okay, we're progressing, but it means nothing until just like the Euros. It means nothing until we actually see progression. We're getting into the semis and we're getting into the finals. We're actually winning the tournament. Right now, it's just dull, really. And if Portugal carry on playing this way and, for example, come unstuck against a proper side like France, then I can tell you we'll be feeling even worse than we are right now. And that's the downside of playing negative and getting results, is that sometimes the results catch up with you, because not every team can win all the time. And when you don't get the result and you know that you've played badly, that's when it truly sucks, and you think to yourself, damn, why didn't I give it a go another way and been a bit more brave or whatever?
That's interesting. Bron, you want to weigh in on this?
Say that one more time.
If you want to weigh in on this situation of, playing like crap but winning instead of playing well and always losing like Portugal is used to.
Listen, I'll take a page that when I watch Porto play. I mean, I don't care what the result is as long as we win. It doesn't matter if it's a bad performance, good performance. Obviously, you want to win every game 5-0 if possible. It's not the case sometimes. You got to win ugly, or you got to win with luck. The problem with this is that the year that they won the Euro, they had a lot of players in form. This year, they don't have the players in form. The luck eventually is going to run out. You're going to need talent to win. Ronaldo is simply not enough. The defense is porous. We see it every game so far. It's been bad. Midfield is porous. You have one element out of the three, four, depending on how you want to look, how Portugal plays, or even five, that have been that has done well. Everybody else has been subpar at best. And then you have an outstanding Ronaldo that's very opportunistic. Other than that, but that's going to run out. You're not going to have that luck all the time. And, the way I was listening to you guys talk about who's going to finish first and second, right now, the best bet is try to find a way to play Uruguay. You're not going to want to play Russia right now. Russia's on a high. They smacked up a pretty good Egypt team yesterday. They have the home fans. They have everything like that going on in their favor. Do you really want to be playing a team against like Russia? Now, am I going to say that they scare me? No, they don't scare me because I think Portugal's team can handle a Russian team. But I think I'd rather play Uruguay right now because Uruguay, they looked horrible today against Saudi Arabia. That was a team that you slapped 3-0, and they didn't get that job done at all. And there were times that Saudi Arabia could have gotten one back. And they, unfortunately for them, they didn't. So I think right now Portugal has to play their way where they have to play Uruguay next and then see where that takes them.
All right. So with that said, I don't know if there's anything else that you guys want to say about the national team.
Well, I don't think Uruguay will be that easy, personally. They had an off day today, but if you look at their back line, it's probably as solid as you may find, particularly their centre backs. They've got some decent midfielders: Betancourt, Torreira, Vecino. Their strikers are lethal: Cavani, Suarez. Against Portugal's back line, I don't know. I think today, Bruno is right. Today it was a bad facet that Uruguay showed, but I fear that against Portugal it'll be another day. The stakes are far higher, and they might grow to the occasion and give Portugal a game that really makes life complicated for Portugal. And Russia, of course, have got the momentum as well. I don't think there's an easy way out of finishing first or second and going into the round of 16. It's the World Cup anyway. You have to face these tough teams and take it on the chin.
I agree with Patrick. I think when you're at this stage, you gotta have to face the more difficult teams and you gotta win. All right, but with that said, anything else you guys want to weigh in national team wise?
No, I think I'm covered.
So am I.
You guys.
All right. So for the last topic of the podcast, Patrick, you want to talk about the Sporting's newest coach?
So the man called Sinisa Mihailovic, I think that's how you pronounce it. He's had a few spells in Italy, as he's also been Serbia's national team coach. So he's been about the block a bit. I think his most successful spell in recent times has been at Torino. He's also been at AC Milan, Sampdoria, Genoa, Fiorentina. For those who don't know, he was in charge of the Torino side 2 seasons ago with Andrea Bellotti, Adam Ljajic, and players of that sort that powered Torino to a respectable ninth place position. But I know in that season particularly, Bellotti scored a lot of goals in Serie A. That Torino side scored a lot of goals themselves. I think it was something over 60, something in between 60 to 70 goals. They also conceded a few, so it's a bit here and there with regards to what he can do with Sporting. But we'll see. Portuguese league is a different reality to what the Serie A is. He's obviously someone who's got a colourful background as well, but we won't go into that. There's lots of stuff that you can find on the news. That's all they've really focused on is what he's like as a character. But in terms of what the players can expect, I know a lot of his former players have relayed that he's a tough man mentally. He will support you, but he expects maximum effort. So in that sense, not too far away from what Jesus was trying to implement at Sporting. He's also someone who apparently keeps a keen eye on the development of younger players, which is a bit more up Sporting Street with the academy and whatnot. So we'll see. I don't know quite what to expect, much like everyone else from the appointment. It's an interesting appointment coming from abroad, and I wouldn't value as often opted to go for the young Portuguese managers or just in general Portuguese managers that are about domestically. Now he's gone and picked up his first manager from a different league, which is actually what he initially planned to do when he first arrived at Sporting. So he's picking up on the plans that he initially had with Augusto Inácio. It's interesting to see the direction that Sporting takes now, of course, because obviously they've still got to decide who's in charge of Sporting and all that, and whether Bruno Carvalho stays or goes. And depending on that, I don't know what the future. I don't even know if Mihajlovic has a future as Sporting manager, but it's intriguing. I'm not sure whether it's a good appointment or a bad appointment, but I am intrigued to see what he can do.
All right. I honestly don't know anything about him, so I'm just, I'm not going to weigh in on him or, the only thing that I saw was a couple of highlights of him, like, smacking people. Like, he seems to be, like, really temperamental.
His blood definitely did boil as a footballer. He's also, he was very good at free kicks as well, from what I've seen in his time at Lazio and whatnot, and Inter Milan and that. And yeah, a very feisty guy. So,
at least if he stays, he'll be able to fit in, right away.
could offer Sergio Conceição a decent
That's what I was
on the sideline.
That's what I was thinking.
We'll see what happens there.
Yeah. Brody, what is it?
I think Patrick just Patrick just covered everything. I mean, I don't think he never has one thing that he does not have is European. He never placed a team in European play. He's very temperamental. He's a guy that likes to invest in youth, apparently. So I have a feeling that this might be a friendship, relationship, however you want to call it, Bruno Carvalho, that is not going to go very well if things don't start happening quickly. I heard today that Viviano and Nani were in Lisbon to sign a contract. I was speaking with one of my friends, and he was talking about it. I honestly, I don't know how Nani is going to fit into the Sporting team. I think Nani is now he's more fit to play maybe at a Guimarães or a Bolonense versus a Sporting, but that's just my opinion.
It's a bit harsh. I wouldn't go that far. maybe a Turkish league or something like that, but not Bolonense or Guimarães. but I see what you mean though. I'm not overly keen on Nani arriving at Sporting. There's obviously talks as well about Slimani coming back and all that, but we'll see what happens.
Silly season is in full force.
Viviano is a good goalkeeper, not as good as Patricio, but he's a really good goalkeeper, which for the Portuguese league I think would be very welcome if Sporting were able to snap him up.
Yeah, we gotta wait and see. There's a lot of stuff going on with the silly season and all that, and who knows? Maybe even next week could be discussing Portugal being out. I mean, I hope not, and that would leave us more time to discuss preseason. But we'll get to where things are going to start heating up. We'll know how it is. But as of right now, a lot of a lot of stuff going around in silly season. All right, so I want to thank everybody that listened to the podcast. Unless you guys have anything else to say, I forgot to ask. I'm not sure. Anything?
No,
you guys
good. I'm good.
All right. I assume Bruno is as well. With that said, I want to thank everybody that listened, and I want to thank Patrick, obviously, for coming on, as well as Bruno. And episode number 100 next week. I'm not sure what we'll be doing, if we'll be doing something special or not, but stay tuned either way. And next week, hopefully, we'll be talking about Portugal moving into the next stage of the World Cup. Till then, we'll see you guys. Bye bye.